for those who have had prior engagements before joining today's panel, if you have to go, you are excused. Thank you very much for your contribution and for helping educate the We the People worldwide, not just in the Kingdom of Canada. So it's 1 p.m. already. Usually we end here, but we have, I believe, 6 more to go. Correct? Okay. So without further ado, go to Royal Decree number 17. Anyone would like to speak to that? It looks like the entire panel. So removal of children from home, unlawful. Okay.
I'm going to start with Her Excellency Julia Dixon.
Her Excellency Julia.
Yes, hello. Thank you, Your Excellency. And thank you, Your Royal Majesty, for this very, very significant, important decree, making it unlawful for the removal of children from home, from their biological parents, or from their legal guardians. And this is critical because we now are very much aware that most of the trafficking of children was done through agencies that are pretending to help and support children and families, where actually they were predators. They were going after families in distress, where maybe they didn't have the economic ability to fight back, or there was a single parent, or there had been some illness, or some vulnerability, that then they could go in and take the children from them. And rather than giving the real support to the family to allow the children to thrive with their biological parents and their legal guardians, there was a focus that we all, society, seemed to accept, which was, we'll go in and rescue the children, where actually it wasn't. They weren't rescuing the children, and they weren't perpetrating any abusers of abuse. The children couldn't, if there is an abusive situation, Her Royal Majesty has decreed decrees for dealing with that, and there is no acceptable reason for violence against children. So that gets taken care of legally in the proper way. But this idea of removing children from their homes and putting them into foster homes where they get paid money, and some of them may have good intentions, certainly, but we know that the bulk, and I'm sure there are other panels here, other people on the panel have some of the data that tells us the number and percentages and the volumes of children that have gone into controlled sexual slavery, human trafficking, labor slavery, whatever other forms of misuse, abuse, crimes against humanity. It's a very slippery slope when they start to take children away from their nurturing homes and their nuclear families and extended families, their grandparents, their aunts, their cousins. We need to give the support to the families, and I know through the other decrees that is being considered, that has been addressed through Her Royal Majesty's decrees, but this one is incredibly significant to cease and desist this practice that should never have been acceptable.
Correct.
Starting with the Native communities in our history, in our Canadian history, that were taken forcefully from their homes, from their families, from their communities, and forced into residential schools and treated absolutely horribly in this fractured so many communities. So it's the same thing. Thank you, Your Royal Majesty.
You're welcome. I think what had happened there was the creation of yet another industry using our children. That's what that was all about. Next.
I'd like to have Her Excellency Deborah Faye Greg, but she needs to unmute herself.
Okay, Your Excellency Deborah. Or she
Might be frozen. Okay,
might
so
be
we're going
frozen.
to
Okay,
go
so
to-
Her Excellency Lise, go right ahead. There you go.
Thank you, Your Majesty. Certainly, I had to say what I have to say because if I don't, I've been there for many years for children, and I came back for children with Her Majesty because she was the first one who ever talked about the children. Now, how in the world did we got so far without our children? How did they manage that through generation? I've seen destiny of brainwashed parents suddenly and pushing the parents, oh, you need more money. Now you have to be free woman, very liberated, get back to work. Now the kids are going in. They never saw their first child do their first step. They never saw the first word of their child. They never knew their own friends of child because they were took away, take away, and then give a big other 3 letters organization, the DPG in Quebec, and the other one all over the province and all over the world, more permissive, intruding into social, into family, breaking the family, getting the old age, get back in your senior home, whatever they call it. So they separate again. They were supposed to be protecting us all over the world. It's the same situation. And now we're realizing that vicious circle just turn around. And the COVID would make the people aware what happened during that COVID. After all that manipulation, after all those children, the one who are going teenage houses and the judge put them in those teenage, they were the same that were abused at the beginning with the system at 6, 7, 8 years old. And they end up, where did they end up? Huh? We wonder where. But now the whole world finished with the COVID. What happened in the COVID? And I said, oh, now they were so far ahead and so far into this manipulation in our children that we have to face the transgender. Thank God, now you were there because I was getting completely. And thank God it stopped all over the world. Thank you to all of you. And that's why I'm here. It's the beginning of the beauty for the VIP. Thank you so much. We keep pushing.
And Her Excellency Lise brought up a good point as to how come the parents and even grandparents, how did we get to that point? Well, it didn't happen overnight. It was communism. For those of you who truly want to know what communism definition is, what was done to the people of the Kingdom of Canada previously was true communism. Through education, through manipulation. It was programming. So gradual programming, it became acceptable for a stranger to be the one taking care of a child, and the mother or the father are away from home because they had to go to work to make money to pay a stranger to take care of their child. Let that sink in. Why couldn't one of the parents stay at home to take care of the child if you're going to bring in a stranger who might be abusing the child and is unrelated to the child. And so the society wondered why the moral values of the children and the society as a whole degraded. Well, there's one of the explanations, because the children did not have proper education, did not have time with mom and dad. Instead, they had strangers babysitting them all day long, 8 hours a day, if not longer, because of the manipulation that mom had to go out to feel valued and important, and that could only be measured if she had some sort of profession, when in fact the most important profession was raising her children and keeping the family intact, the family structure. That was communism. Gradually, they managed to destroy the foundation of the family. So we're put an end to that. That timeline is over. Who's next, Your Excellency, darling?
Her Excellency Deborah Gregg, I'm waiting for her to open her mic.
Okay, Your Excellency Deborah Gregg, if you can unmute your mic.
She's
Okay, is she still? Your Excellency Deborah, can you hear me? Is the volume? Can you make sure this doesn't, the water doesn't get knocked off these things? Okay, Your Excellency Deborah Gregg, am I muted? No. Okay, so we'll go to the next one. Okay. All right, so Her Excellency Deborah. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to add, thank you, Your Royal Majesty. I just wanted to say that the demise of the nuclear family has always been the pervasive agenda, and your decree, nuclear family, importance of the role of mothers and the importance of children being raised in their own families of origin or their families of their culture, and not by the institutions and not by the government, which has only sought to diminish the capacity of humanity and not to empower the capacity of humanity. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, next.
Her Excellency Becoming Soul.
Your Excellency Becoming
Yeah,
Soul.
wait, no,
Hello?
we're not going to Becoming Soul. We're going to go to Her Excellency Maria Magdalena.
Okay. All right, Her Excellency Maria Magdalena, and then Her Excellency Deep Coming Soul.
Thank you. Today we know that these unlawful child abductions are a very lucrative business model. If the parents are not compliant with the state, they can be blackmailed by taking the children away. However, many children then disappear into children's homes, and some, not all, of these facilities have been used as collection points and distribution centers to sell the children for profit. The customers, pedophiles, hospitals for organ harvesting, the black market for organ trafficking, and many more. Now, some of you may be asking yourself, why can the state do this? It has to do with the birth certificate and the fictitious legal person. The state assumes, remember, everything is an assumption by the state and the courts. The state assumes that this child is illegitimate, even if the father is present and lives in the household. The state therefore assumes the role of father of the child and can take the child away from the parents. The birth certificate means that the legal person is the property of the state. The parents are only entitled to raise the child. The state can withdraw this right and take the children. Yes, there are also situations where the child welfare is at risk in the family and the parents need help. So it can be helpful if the children is temporarily placed with a relative. In the end, a child belongs to its parents. Also from a higher perspective, because parents and child constantly mirror each other. The child is our teacher, not the other way around. If you don't like what your child is doing, then you have to change something about you, not the child. A child who is abducted from its parents' home by force automatically suffers multiple traumas. Even if it's in good hands in the institutions it is placed in, and even if it is lucky enough to be allowed to return home after a few days, most illnesses are based on unresolved traumas. But that's another topic. Thank you for this decree on behalf of all children and their parents. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next is Her Excellency Deep Coming Soul.
It has been, much has been very much shared by the panel. So all I want to add is every child deserves to grow within a home in the safety and security of loving parents without the threat of being removed unnecessarily from that home, because the children are our future. And they need to be able to be in a situation where they can fully expand into the wonderful abilities and interests and what they have to bring to this world and to contribute to this world. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Okay.
Thank you, everyone. I would also like to add that 50,000 children are reported to police as missing every year, and that's a huge problem. And I'm sure if Her Excellency Gina Lee can speak on this subject, there's many more in the United States that have gone missing. Just to touch on the housing side of everything, children are removed from their homes unlawfully through unlawful foreclosures, royal decree, and cease and desist foreclosure royal decree 7 and 70213 prevent the unlawful foreclosure. And we've seen a lot of Canadian nationals removed from their homes for falling behind on a bill or a property tax bill or anything like that. And agents are showing up at doors and booting doors in. Well, that's unlawful in the Kingdom of Canada. And the shutdown of all corporations. Number 6, Royal Decree 213, shutdown of all corporations and their subsidiaries who masqueraded as we the people's government, municipal, provincial, territorial, and national. And thank you for these powerful royal decrees, Your Majesty, protecting our VIPs of all VIPs and the we the people of the Kingdom of Canada and around the world. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everybody. Your Royal Majesty, Queen Romana, I'm going to try to say this very quickly. I have a few points. Your follow-up Royal Decree 225 would protect children. And you went into a great deal of detail in the 5 pages of 225. And in this Royal Decree 17, you sign it off before the QQQ in between asterisks. It's in plain English. Do not touch the children of the Kingdom of Canada. And we understand that. That's plain English. And it's already been mentioned that if children would only stay in their homes and not be removed from their homes, there would be none of this commercialization of child abuse for profit, child trafficking for profit, adrenochrome for profit. That would not be there. And in this new era, it will not be there because you have ended the powers that be of the old system. And I just want to say that this is the extent of how the cult works. They steal your children. In this royal decree, it says those police constables, law enforcement officers, child protection services agencies, schools, attempting to remove children from their homes will be charged with child kidnapping, which to me means stealing a child from their home. They not only lie, but they steal. And so there's a lot of evil that would be prevented just by leaving children alone and letting them grow up, with their own parents. And I just want to mention how they steal your children. It's in plain sight, like in hospitals. It makes me think, not that I know for a fact, but my neighbor across the street, I've been living here for a long time, she told me that her one child went to the hospital. I think she was like 10 years old or something, and she died at the hospital at Toronto, in one of the Toronto hospitals. And she came home without her girl. And what opened up this conversation was we had a conversation about comic books. And she had all these comic books that her little girl was reading. So I didn't want to hurt her feelings. But my thought when I heard this a few years ago was, I wonder if the doctors made it look like her child was dead. You know how they can euthanize you somehow, but you're not really dead. Because they actually steal children in plain sight. And the fact that people don't believe these things are happening, the evidence is out there. Like even a few years ago, like last year even, on the Enbridge gas on the back of the envelope, there was a missing child's photo, to let people know, this is what the child would look like. Up to date. So you have to ask yourself, like what's been mentioned already, where do all these missing children go every year? It's been revealed to us, like in wartime, there are a lot of missing children that are kidnapped, and it's all because of the commercialization of the children, and it's linked to the cult religion that the cabal practice. They need children. Thank you for letting me share.
You're welcome.
I have Her Excellency Gina Lee.
Okay, Her Excellency Gina Lee.
Thank you, Your Royal Majesty, and I want to thank all of the panel members for speaking. I heard some questions in their remarks and a lot of knowledge being shared, and I wanted to offer my experience with this process in the corrupt family courts and how this actually goes about happening to where they're capable of kidnapping your children. It began for me with COVID-19. And in that instance, I recognized that the masculine co-creator for my children was not capable of protecting us. And so I made an active choice to seek co-creative rights that there were agreed to between the two of us to go ahead and protect our children and move away. And so we did. And for a year, it was a year of peace. And I was brought back through fraud and disingenuous offer to realize I was kidnapped, held hostage, and tortured. It took me 47 days and the silence of everyone I asked for help to action for myself. I asked for help from family, friends, neighbors, police, public officials, governors, attorney generals, and nobody would help us. So I took it upon myself to run, and I took my children. And so everything was fine. We had limited ability, but we were safe. And instead of being able to find refuge and seek peace, I was pursued with lawfare. So the co-creator, masculine, to me was observed to be incapable at this point with either 1 COVID vaccine or 3, whichever. But at this point, he was actively pursuing us with cognitive dissonance. I attended a virtual hearing within one of those courts. And in doing so, I shocked the magistrate. I let them know they were dealing with a living person, blood flowing, living lady, breathing, and it shocked them. And he immediately abandoned ship for 30 minutes. When he came back, he couldn't look me in the eye. And he admitted to being a traffic cop. Now I think about this because it took me a while to realize what he was admitting to. He works in a system where they move children, where they take them from their parents. He was in effect, through fraud, by the way, which the court systems are fraud masquerading government. So in effect, what he was admitting to was being a trafficker. That case went nowhere. They didn't want to touch it. In effect, I had won. With that said, I realized that co-creator masculine needed support, and I sought help, and I tried to figure out how I could get him the support he needed. And I believe it was because of these COVID-19 shots that he was incapable. With that said, he at some point sought counsel, and this counsel came to me trying to recontract with our co-creator contract that was still valid. And I informed them I sought help, and I needed my co-creator masculine of my children to receive that help. With everything that I had experienced, I couldn't trust his access to his children. He had got them the COVID-19 behind my back and against my will. So I sought help. And instead of finding cooperation, they immediately actioned a court case against me. And they used a lawfare to try to target and attack me. They guided my co-creator masculine co-creator of my children to prevent access to finances, to eliminate any comfort that he had provided in our agreement between co-creator rights. And so with that said, I did my best without any legal background to protect myself, to protect my children. With the virtual school we were in, they too infiltrated that and defamed me. And the school again attempted to put this person in access to my children and myself. They were now actioning against us. So we continued on, and I did my best to put together my truth before this court, letting them know that it was fraud, no jurisdiction, the fraud that was created in creating it, and they wouldn't hear it. They threw out my document, my 250-page affidavit of truth, combined with a lot of details in there. They threw it out. And I believe what followed indicated to me they didn't just throw it out. They gave it to the opposing party, all the details of what had happened. With that said, the school system, the virtual school, went ahead and threatened me to say that if I did not traffic my children to a hotel for testing, if it's a virtual school, now you would say, Gina, virtual schools need to test and they often do it in hotels. But I want to remind every parent what you're agreeing and consenting to. In that time, you had WEF, World Economic Forum, pushing for adult content on our 5-year-olds, let alone the higher grades. And when you consent to trafficking your child to a hotel for testing, which is a very open term, you have to be cautious. And so I disagreed, and my child was thrown out of school. Shortly after that, I was swatted. What does that mean? I was reported to Department of Families as being unsafe, and the children were in harm. They came to my door, and I promptly walked them back to the sidewalk and bid them farewell for violating my, at the time, constitutional rights of search and seizure without warrant. They went ahead laughing and bringing back the police. There were 5 vehicles and many cops who decided to walk onto the property and lounge and loiter. I again walked them back to the sidewalk and informed them that they were in violation of my constitutional rights. Before I could even speak to them, I needed to ensure they were all on the sidewalk. One remained behind me, ready to tackle me and arrest me. With that said, I continued with calm and peace, very slow movements, as I did not want to agitate the situation. I informed the officer that he was making me very uncomfortable and I needed him to step back onto that sidewalk. After some time, his commanding officer, who was already on the sidewalk, motioned to him and he agreed. I could then talk to them, but they threatened me with jail time. And I recognized the abuse of this system, where they already had an agent of Department Families at my door with these police present, ready to tackle me and take me to jail. And if they did that, they could take my children, saying there was no one left to support them. Then I would have been in greater trouble. So I had to allow, under great duress, the violations. I walked them back, and they set foot in my house, at least the agent of Department of Families. And they saw there was no danger. They had everything they needed, and they wanted to talk to them. And I disagreed. I said, no, you've gotten what you need. Please leave. And they did, hesitantly. So I walked them out. Shortly after that, and continued attacks through this court system that had no jurisdiction, and with this fraudulent case, continued to attack me with lawfare. And at some point, they go ahead and they send me a notice to say that I am to present myself in their court 1,000 miles away, with no financial means of how to get there, how to sustain us, how to feed ourselves, how to shelter us. And with this request, in that time, I was also in the midst of losing my car insurance and my ability to drive. So I couldn't get there. God was ensuring that. God was guiding me. And with that said, they went ahead and actioned against me because I did not show up. I did not participate. And with this fraudulent document, they ordered the removal of my children back to their co-creator masculine. Once they had that, they actioned through the local jurisdiction of the court in my area to then send their police officers, policy enforcement officers. We had a few months of peace after that first order, but they still came and they lied. They came and they wanted to check to make sure the children were here. So they fabricated an event in front of the house so they could speak to us and see the children or hear that the children were here. And the next day they came looking for the children. I maintained calm and peace, and I recognized the situation we were in. I had a choice, and I could not see myself being thrown on the lawn and arrested. Pardon. So with peace, I walked my children out, and we took them. It's been a year, and with that event, there has been no follow-up. My connection to my children has been severed, and I trust God. I trust Her Royal Majesty, and it will be done. They have been served. They have made their free will choice. And God bless the foundations we build Earth 2.0. I thank you.
You're welcome. Her Excellency Gina Lee's experience, I'm sure, is not one or is not unique to what the old system had done to the many families, not just in the Kingdom of Canada, not just in America, but around the world, but especially in countries where they have promoted democracy, where the system was created to not only destroy financially, but to destroy the very foundation of families. Where justice was only for those who were supporting the system, who were working for the system. Where the rule of law only applied to those select few. The propaganda machine was used by the communists. Yes, those were communist systems. Communism was not in China. It wasn't in North Korea. It wasn't in Russia. It was in North America, and it was in Europe. It was where democracy was. You flip that script, and everything that was done to with the people, the oppression, the suppression, the abuse, it was communism. The structure were so intricately developed, and over the years, the people began to support the very system that were enslaving them. Through that manipulation. As I said, why is it that when a child goes missing, a child doesn't return? If you have a clean community, like in the old days where a child can walk at any given time along the village, the streets in the community, and can play all day long, all night long, and not be harmed, not go missing. Why is it that in North America, in the supposed advanced countries, industrialized, where all cameras, all types of technologies to find anything and everything, cannot find a missing child? And His Excellency Michael mentioned earlier, as about 50,000 children go missing. And yet, as I said, we lived in a society where we had all kinds of advanced technologies to find anything if we wanted to. So where did all the children go? And why was it tolerated by the very supposed entities that were designed to protect the children? Thank you for sharing your personal experience there, Your Excellency Gina Lee. You spoke and shared the experiences of thousands, if not millions, of families in North America and around the world. Have you heard of in the countries where they have absolute monarchies, for example, have you heard of any children going missing? No? Have you heard of children going missing and not be found in China or in North Korea? Why is it that children only go missing in countries where democracy exists? I haven't heard of any children or a child going missing from Saudi Arabia, for example, and not be returned. Or from North Korea, where their governments are supposedly authoritarian or absolute monarchy. Next, we will go to who's the next speaker? If Her Excellency Gina Lee was the last speaker for that Royal Decree number 17. Mm-hmm. And I would like to address the special forces of the Kingdom of Canada and America and those around the world, our allied special forces. Thank you for your sacrifice in protecting the children worldwide. And to those whose children have been kidnapped, and there's no other word to use that to describe that other than your children have been kidnapped by corporations. Rest assured that your children, as difficult as it may be, your children have their spiritual contract that may be unbeknownst to the parents, are using their spiritual contract to demonstrate, to help awaken humanity at this time. So that is the experience that they have agreed to. It may be very, very difficult for parents to have this type of understanding. But I also ask you to consider that perhaps your children have had higher purpose. And by that, I mean they volunteered spiritually to be used as an example to awaken, to help awaken humanity at this time, so that the children in the future never go through what they have gone through. And to the parents, you too are being used by the Grandmaster Creator as an instrument to help awaken humanity through this very challenging experience. But the Grandmaster Creator also will not give you a challenge that you cannot handle. I was orphaned at a very young age, as majority of you who have been following me. I was orphaned at age 10. My father passed away, and then a year and a few months later, mother passed away. So I was orphaned at age 11. So I understand the missing link when you talk about families and children. With that, we will go to Royal Decree number 18 before I start bawling uncontrollably here. So planting